All right, so welcome to Teaching EFL to Young Learners. This is our 8th year. So next year will be our 9th. We haven't made too many changes. We have made changes to Teaching EFL to Young Learners, but it's been like this for the last, I guess, 5 years. So next year we're going to change. We are 4 moderators. In week 1 and 5, I do the introduction and the final week. Sheryl, we keep changing the order here. Sheryl is in week 2, Judy Wong in week 3, and Nives Torresi in week 4. A little bit about us. You can read these presentation slides will be available and you'll get more information. We're based in the United States, Italy, and Canada. There were 88 participants this year from 28 countries. You can see the countries represented. Nives, is Nives here?
Yeah.
Hi, Nellie. Yes, I am.
Hi, do you want to go on?
Okay, I'm upside down, I think.
Oh, you're
Yes.
upside down. I've had that, but it's okay.
It
You can just
happens.
remove, that.
That's fun. That's for kids.
Yeah, that's fun. Yes, go ahead. You can remove it if you like, and we'll put everybody else there instead. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so a little bit about our session. We had 5 weeks of different activities each week. The first week was all about getting to know each other and using the Moodle and understanding how the Moodle layout works. Week 2 was Sheryl's upcycling week, which was maybe if she's online, she can get to talk about that. Week
We'll
3
get to
was,
that.
yeah,
We'll
okay.
get to that later.
Do you just want me to talk about
Just
it in
since you
general?
created the slide, yes. Mhm.
Okay. Week 4 was about board games. We've been doing the board games week since 2015, and it's always exciting because we get to practice on creating our own board games and sharing them and discussing theory every week. Week 5 was showcasing, and we had one live session every week, Saturday or Sunday this year. I think it was on Saturday, and every year we keep changing it, but hopefully, and we had a great turnout, I think.
All right, thank you.
That's about it.
So 3 participants completed all the activities. Not all 88 actually joined. I think maybe 4 or 5 joined. So they enrolled, but they didn't really complete or even start the session. These were the reflections using Voki. The weekly task, you can see what we did in weeks 1 to 5. As Nives mentioned, week 1 was the introduction using Kahoot. They had a choice whether to use Kahoot to challenge others. They had to add photos or images that showed the answer, because you can't really guess, to help those who were taking the challenges using Kahoot, if that's what they wanted. We also used a Padlet map for the locations, Voki avatar, and of course the layout, where they created a screen share so that we knew that they knew where they were going. Week 2 was upcycling, and you can see what we did there with research and practice. Compare and contrast research, create lessons for upcycling opportunities, and share and discuss on Wakelet. We used one Wakelet for everyone. Week 3 was Judy's. Judy, you might want to explain that.
Hey, so week 3, we started with a kickoff play in Go Brunch. We played with 2 different types of online live plays. One was in Go Brunch, one was in Zoom, the immersive version. So we played at creating and recreating stories and having our students actually play the parts of the stories and how we would achieve that in improvisational play so that the book will come to life. And it's not just about a reading of a story, but actually making an actual book come to life. So get them interested in actually reading them.
Week 4, Nives? I guess she's trying to fix her.
Here I am. Yes.
Okay.
yeah,
Sorry.
sorry. Okay. Week 4 was all about reading about how to use board games in the classroom, how to use an actual board game that we can make online, print it up for our students and get our students to make it. So reading all the theory about behind making board games and using board games for language learning. And then we also looked at digital board games. I created a digital board game template, plus we borrowed one from Slides Mania. We played around with it. We then added everything that we did to our wakelet, which was created by Dr. Nellie, the big wakelet, and we used it. We had our week in there. And I think that also our participants made a video tutorial on actually creating the PDF online of the digital board game. So that was really good to see how they were able to use the online tool to actually make their own games for EFL learning, where they used it for different age groups, but also different material, like, for example, or different bases like learning verbs or learning nouns, and while playing and enjoying. So that was our week and we had a lot of fun. Thank
Great.
you to all the participants.
Yes, and week 5 was showcase using curation wall screen recorders. They recorded all the work that they'd done with screen recorders, and they reflected with a Voki. This is how they introduced themselves using Padlet Map, the Kahoot, and Voki. I don't know, if Cheryl here?
Cheryl
Yes,
is
I'm here.
Okay, great.
I'm
So maybe
here.
you can talk about this, your session, week 2.
Okay, the week 2 session was upcycling. Basically, what I wanted to try to get across to them with the readings that we had was how context can affect how we learn language. And sometimes that flies and sometimes it doesn't. Plus, I had my second bout of COVID during the middle of all this, about the second day I was in it. So I know, all I remember basically is that many of them talked about they didn't know how many classes they were going to be in, and they were in several classes at the same time. And I was like, oh my gosh, so I tried to encourage people, but I wasn't at my best. But anyway, I did give them some lessons. There's one that I really like. It's about making bubbles. What it does is it shows, you use it to show how bubbles can go into the ocean and they regenerate the oxygen that's in there. So we use a little bubble thing. And then my main idea is always make sure that you start with a basic word that kids will be using it wherever they are, and then there you go. Bob's your uncle.
Thank you, Cheryl. I'm going backwards. Okay, Judy, any more that you'd like to tell us about your session, the various Zoom meetings that you had?
Well, yeah, I mean, we couldn't, I don't have a screenshot of the immersive, but it was, we created, we were playing with the story, 3 Billy Goats Gruff, and we kind of created an immersive environment in Zoom where we got to play the different parts of 3 Billy Goats Gruff as one was reading the story, so that the children you can actually engage the students. Because one of the problems everybody always said was that, how do we, when we're stuck online, how do we get the children to actually participate and not zone out? And that is one way to do it, is actually get them engaged in actually the story of the book. And as we reading the story in the book, they each get to choose parts. So in the Go Brunch, we sort of threw them into little parts and had a little fun with that, as everybody played each part as the story reader was reading the story. But it makes it more engaging, and then the children get more interested in actually a book could be fun and it could be an adventure. So
The
but we
question
had
is
fun.
always how to get them online. But once
Yeah.
they're there, they have fun.
Yeah, and the thing is that when you do it as a play, they actually show up because they think they're gonna, they feel like I'm playing. It's not just my teacher giving me a lesson or reading me a book in a static form. I'm actually gonna get to be part of the book, and it becomes a lot more interesting for them to actually engage in a book. And they show up. They actually will show up and put on their cameras and actually play in the games, which is nice.
I mean, to attend the Zoom meeting,
Yeah, they'll show up. They actually show up. They show up
Right.
because it's like a game for them.
right? 2 or 3. I'm talking about hundreds that show up. That's
Oh
what we
yeah.
want. We
I've
want
I've had
hundreds.
I during COVID, I was working
During
with
COVID, we're talking about EVO 23. That's my problem.
yeah.
All
well,
right. Nives, board games.
Here I am. Okay, so that's the Wakelet for last year. I've just put the Wakelet link for this year in the chat. So, and I've also put the link to the Teaching EFL to Young Learners EVO 23 to the whole 4 weeks as well, the Wakelet that Dr. Nellie created. So you're more than welcome to go in there and have a look. All the links for week 4, my week, are all in there. How to create a board game, looking at what we've done, what we did from A to Z. And there's also a link to last year's Wakelet as well, which has a lot more information in it if you're willing to go that far. So, and we had a lot of fun. I think that board games are something that you don't need internet if you don't want to. You can make your own, print it out or make it on paper and then use it in the classroom. And it's a great way to take that moment away from the pressure of just learning and memorizing, but turning that learning into a game, turning that learning into a playful moment, that the learning becomes almost automatic rather than being pressured into learning. And I think little kids need to play as they learn. And I think that children right up until teenagers do effectively learn better when they're enjoying what they're doing. They're more motivated and they're more engaged, definitely. And the learning, I think, happens fairly naturally. It's when the forced learning is done, or the forced teaching is done, or that frontal teaching is done, that I think students turn away from everything. So I think we have to just remember that we need to collaborate. And collaborate also means having fun, and it's a two-way street as well. So using a board game to teach a part of the grammar or the language is an excellent opportunity to make that moment, that learning moment, fun and interactive rather than boring and forced.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Right. These were some of the presentations that the participants used, as well as the screen recorders. They could choose, of course, whatever they wanted. And the curation board, even though we had a collaborative Wakelet board, they could choose others to capture and document their own work. These were some of the digital badges and the final certificate, of course. Some of the feedback that we got, since we also asked them what were some of the highlights, what did you think of the course, and so on. And these were some of the things that they wrote. What I like is the fact that they called it a practical course, and I think that's what EVO is about. It's about having practical courses for teachers where they can go and try things out right away in their classroom or later on, but to try things out as they go. And of course, techniques, even though Nives, oh, you're straight up, even though Nives mentioned the fact that hands-on is where Sheryl mentioned that hands-on is really important when we're talking about young learners. They can't be online all the time, even though during COVID, was problematic. They had to be in Zoom, but in fact, they need to have activities in the classroom, which I think is what we're going to do next year. We're going to focus more on hands-on activities in the classroom, what they can do, whether it's arts and craft, board games, and other things in the classroom, games in general, not just board games, but other games that they create through cycling in the classroom so that they're engaged in learning a language as they actually do something, as they work, to keep their intention and focus. So thank you to you guys for all the amazing work you've been doing for the past 8 years, and all the participants who took the course and hopefully will take it next year. So we're up to Q&A if we have, we've got 2 minutes, I see.
Yes, there is a question in the chat, Nellie. Jane asks about online board games for kids.
Yeah, there are. Nives can answer that. Yes. Nives?
Here I am. Sorry, repeat the question.
Online board games.
Online board games, as in digital board games, playing them online with your students. The only ones we've really done are where you can create a digital board game, like on a slides presentation, for example, and add all the information you want into it and then play it with your students digitally. We're looking at perhaps moving on to next year playing actual games. We've tried to avoid taking students to actual gaming sites to avoid, because remember, here in Italy especially, we have a problem with taking children away from protected areas into real game type areas. So because of the 2017 Privacy Act. So we've avoided taking students away from the Google or Microsoft education areas. But we've used the Slides Mania digital board, and I created one a few years ago, which I allow the participants to take a copy of and expand into their own board game, well, whatever they want to add to it. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you, Nives.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
No,
You
nothing.
feel free to unmute yourself. You can speak, I think. Yes.
No, just thank yous. 8 years, wow. Well done.
I think it started as IATEFL. I was on the IATEFL committee. I was at IATEFL as well as TESOL, and that's how we started. And then we moved on, and then Nives and Sheryl were invited with Charles Goodyear. We had fun songs for a couple of years, right? And then Judy joined us.
Yes, that's right. Mm.
And then we had storytelling, but then Judy joined us with live book to life reading, and then Zoom.
Right.
And a lot of the stuff we did for the arts and crafts, which I really don't like that word, but anyway, remember it started with the refugees, but that kind of went away. I was a participant. I wasn't a moderator then. And so the idea was to bring in things that volunteers could bring in and help the kids make learning things that they could use in their classes and learning English.
You're right,
So
Sheryl. That's right.
It's been around the world. It's been great. And you're right. It is ready. It's time to make a change,
Yeah.
That was the Heart Project with Julie Kakmaz, I think.
Yes.
That's right.
Thank
That's
you.
right. You
Thank
guys
you.
remember. That's
Yes.
right.
Oh, yes. It was great. That was when I first got in. I think one of her first, maybe 2 or 3 times she did that. Yeah.
That's right. We had 6 moderators actually.
Mhm.
Yes, with Julie
Yeah.
as well. That's right,
Yeah.
Cheryl.
So you're adding new things, your sessions
it's
evolving every
changing.
year.
Yeah,
Can't
it's
wait for the
evolving.
next
But
year.
it's been the same since COVID, and COVID, it worked really well during COVID, but after COVID,
Yes.
teachers to young learners weren't using online environments anymore. They wanted something more tangible for their students. And that's why we need to, accommodate them and make that change. So that's what
Right.
we're planning to do next year.
Yeah.
And that
Next
was
year.
a question that I
Yes.
had, Nellie, if I may raise it to the whole group. I posted in the chat,
Oh, sorry, I didn't
teaching
see that.
English for young learners is definitely a much needed session among all these sessions that we have for adults. In my program, in the MA program, there was always a question, do you have a session on, or do you have a course rather, on teaching English for young learners? So I'm glad you're not giving up on it. You're
No, we're not. We're
changing
not.
it. But
We're
what
not.
is a fundamental difference between the sessions that you teach for adults and the session that you teach for young learners?
Well, there are lots of differences, as you know, but since
Yeah.
I've been teaching both, so I can kind of compare. First of all, teaching young learners, whether you're teaching in high school, which is most of my, in junior high, or very young learners, it's more of hands-on teamwork. There's more touching, and I think that's the main difference. Really, you physically touch your students, you move them. There's this lots of movements in the classroom and lots of touching. They hug you. The young learners hug your legs, and the high school kids,
The older one's like, get away from me,
no, but they touch each other. I mean, it's different with adult learners, university learners. It's all, very, very formal. In the classroom, outside the classroom, it's a lot of fun, but in the classroom, it's more formal. There aren't any classroom management issues, not that many. There are at university as well, but with young learners, you really have to keep them active all the time.
Yeah, my youngest learners were 18, and so even though it was in a college setting, they themselves were 18, so young adults. And I found that, what you're just explaining, the hands-on and touching, and that was definitely going on. And, I tried to make my classes as much as fun as possible. And Quizlet Live was mentioned.
Exactly.
Quizlet Live was, I mean, it was the most fun we had. Learning vocabulary. How can you have fun learning vocabulary?
That's why, Quizlet.
I took videos of them. So, I found that, even though I wouldn't consider 18-year-olds exactly young learners by your definition, I think, there were quite a few similarities.
Yeah, we use Quizlet as well. But the idea, of course, is that they want to move around. They need to move around, even 18-year-olds. They need to move around. And with adults, they kind of prefer to sit. You change the furniture all the time. There's an ongoing, exciting, stimuli to get them curious about things. And I think our time is up.
It is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nives, Cheryl, Judy, and Nellie.